Okay, so here we are at the Palmyra Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've been here a couple times. The first time I went in 2007, and I didn't have my camera with me, and I also didn't know that this temple sits right inside of an ancient Hopewell Mound-Builder fort. Now, I didn't know about the mound-builders back in 2007, so I went back here to Palmyra in the year 2018. And the best way, I guess, to get to the trail that goes around the fort is you go to the left side of the temple here, and there's a little berm. And this berm, this embankment, is actually part of the outer edge of the fort. And you walk up this berm in between these two benches. And you go into the trees back there, and there will be a trail. Western New York is full of hundreds of ancient Hopewell Mound-Builder forts. Now, these forts are not as fancy as the ones that you'll find in Ohio and other places in the Midwest. These ones were thrown up quickly. Archaeologists estimate that the Hopewell Mound-Builder civilization ended in New York around 400 AD. And also, various Native American tribes talk about how the ancient mound builders were destroyed in war by a bunch of tribes that gathered together to finish them off. And the area now known as New York is where they finished most of them off, and they chased a few down the Ohio River and caught up with them in Kentucky and finished them off at the falls of the Ohio River. Now, this book, Antiquities of New York, written by Ephraim G. Squire back in this is either 1849, 1850, somewhere around there. There's actually two versions of this book, one that he did for the Smithsonian and one that he did on his own. So I have both versions. They're each a little bit different, but they show maybe about 50 survey drawings of ancient Hopewell forts in the New York area, but there are much more than that. And some have been completely leveled down and destroyed and built over, and some are still there. As you'll see here in this video, the Palmyra Temple sits right inside an ancient fort. And also there's a cool ancient fort out in Auburn, New York at a cemetery, Fort Hill Cemetery. I've been there and I've got video footage of that too that I'll have to upload sometime. Anyways, there's a lot of fighting that went on in New York. And another interesting thing in this book, Antiquities of New York, it talks about bone pits, or pits they dug into where there was just tons and tons of bones. And as you see right here, it says, the bone pits, which occur in some parts of western New York, Canada, Michigan, etc., have unquestionably a corresponding origin. Several of these have been described in a previous chapter. They are of various sizes, but usually contain a large number of skeletons. In a few instances, the bones appear to have been arranged with some degree of regularity. One of these pits, discovered some years ago in the town of Cambria, Niagara County, was estimated to contain the bones of several thousand individuals. And you notice it's got a little asterisk there, takes you down to the footnote, and it says this locality was visited and examined by Mr. O'Turner, Buffalo, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it's in a book called The Holland Purchase. So here we are, just on top of the embankment, past the benches. And so I am standing on top of the embankment that will surround this fort that the Palmyra Temple sits in. Now, as we're moving over, you can see there are some stones that start to go along. Now, I'm not sure if these stones are left over from the Hopewell period or if some Iroquois tribes put them in there. I mean, this is the land of the Six Nations of the Iroquois. So I'm not sure if they put them in there or if, early U.S. settlers put them in there. Anyways, so here we go. Here's the top of the berm, the embankment, and you can see there's a little trail there. This trail goes around the entire fort. And here you are. You can see how the embankment starts to slope downward. There's a field on the other side of these trees. Here I am standing at the bottom of the embankment on the other side. The field is just off there to the left. If you notice, as you come in from the field, you can see very slightly, there's a very slight decline that goes into a ditch. Now, the ditch around this fort has mostly been filled in. I'm not sure if it was filled in by settlers who moved here and turned it into fields, or if it's just slump from the thousands of years. But also sometimes, these bone pits that were being talked about in Antiquities of New York, sometimes these bone pits are around the forts. And what happened was sometimes either people would die in the ditch while trying to invade the fort, or bodies would get thrown into the ditch and they would just either rot there or they'd get buried. Now here I am moving further along the top of the embankment. The field you see beyond these stones, that is basically the backyard of the Palmyra Temple. But these stones, they go all along pretty much the, I believe it's the south side of the fort. Sometimes it's hard to tell my direction out there, but I believe this was on the south side. Anyways, it continues to go for a while. And here you can see the rocks are all piled up, and it goes all the way clear to the back of the field. It's a good long walk around the entire fort. And like I say, I'm not sure if these stones are left over from Hopewell period or from a later Iroquois period or from early settlers. But again, so you see these stones. Here's the backyard of the Palmyra Temple. And once you get to the back of the fort, the embankment gets leveled out, the stones end, and then you follow the backside over to the other side of the fort where the embankment starts up again. Anyways, here we are back out in front of the Palmyra Temple, but the trail will go all the way around the entire temple, and it comes down along this other side of the temple. You can't see it here, definitely because of the trees. I didn't film the trail back there because it's pretty boring. You already saw what you needed to see on that main side. But the trail comes out right along where you see these stones here. And so this is on the right side of the Palmyra Temple. You can enter there too, but it's just more interesting when you enter in on the left side. So now I'm standing here in the backyard of the temple, and now we're inside the fort. And like I say, that trail that I was following, it stretches all the way clear back along that tree line and all the way down the other side. So imagine this entire area fenced off with picketed fences and wooden towers. That is the way that the Hopewell people built their forts, with embankments and ditches on the outside, surrounded, and at the top of the embankment, it was surrounded by picketed fences and towers. That's the way the Hopewell built their forts. That's the way the people in the Book of Mormon built their forts. And you only find the stuff in North America. You don't find it down in Central America or South America. The eastern half of the United States is filled with forts like these, just the way that Captain Moroni had them built in the Book of Mormon.